self-supervision theory. A historian said that we have three enemies: poverty, violence, disease. We feel anxiety in front of them. But humanity has a special ability compared with monkeys. It is to believe fantasy. An example is that we don't lose against poverty. We can overcome disease. We commend each other for overcoming three enemies. We can make friendship by language. We don't feel anxious fighting against three enemies. And then we can overcome these three enemies, but language has sub-influence. This sub-influence is unconscious bias. If a person experiences poverty, other humanity must help and must not stop and must overcome without feeling anxious, and then we may think this person is poor, have a hard situation, or is weak. These processes create unconscious bias. But we must define them. We can't feel anxiety. We must separate this from anxiety. We must create fantasy. We are not them. We must overcome three enemies. And so, we must define them. And so, unconscious bias is a sub-influence of language. We have proven and right strategy, which is to use language against these three enemies. If we consider this unconscious bias as an enemy for humanity, we can more easily overcome these three enemies. And so, we may analyze all problem by these four enemies. Of course, it is a hypothesis, but this hypothesis is worth proving. We may be able to analyze all problems by four enemies. We may be able to change our way of thinking to be strong for us and not to panic. If we can be aware of our unconscious bias that is created from external information, it is not self-reflection, but we may be able to analyze all our problem. This is self-supervision theory. Now you learned it. And so, you should be aware that you start to divide them according to those who understand and those who do not. This awareness is a center point of self-supervision theory.